Oh my god, I can't believe I'm here. I'm fangirling. This place has been on my bucket list for years. Oh my gosh. It's not looking like it on camera, but it is so much bigger in person. Like, those pillars are huge. Oh my gosh, come and have a look. Hey hunters, welcome back. And today I was going to show you what the hell we got up to in Turkey, because we had a phenomenal time scrambling around the ancient sites, literally dodging bullets and eating a lot of cheese. Before we deep dive into today's video, I wanted to shout out this video's sponsor, which is Sterling Pacific. So when Sterling Pacific approached me asking if I would like to road test one of their fantastic pieces of luggage, I was like, absolutely, because I'm not going to lie to you, I've always bought cheap luggage and I've always destroyed it. So after thoroughly road testing this luggage, I am more than happy to put my personal stamp of approval on it. Quality, as in you can tell that every part of it is very high quality. Their travel cases are made from 5052 aluminium and reinforced with A380 aluminium corners, with impact-bearing ridges on the front and back and Italian leather handles. 2 oversized wheels are chosen instead of 4, which helps on rough terrain. And each suitcase comes with a QR code where you can register your product, and it comes with a lifetime guarantee. I was also surprised at how much I could fit in the approved cabin size suitcase. I went to Turkey for 10 days and I managed to fit everything I needed inside the cabin suitcase and a backpack. Like, genuinely, I had at least 4 or 5 people comment to me in the airport, oh, I like your suitcase, where'd you get your suitcase, what's that? It brought interest. So if this looks like a bit of you, I will pop the website in the description so you can check it out, and if you would like to purchase one, if you use the promo code WORLD, you can get some money off. Now back to our timetabled broadcast. Now I'm going to start with my favourite site and really the creme de la creme of ancient Turkey, which is Gobekli Tepe. Obviously I'd seen loads of videos about it, I thought I knew kind of a lot about it. It is nothing to the experience of seeing it with your own eyes. It is so much bigger and more detailed than you think it is. What I find really exciting about Gobekli Tepe is the amount of unknown stuff. It really is a place where you can let your imagination go wild, and we had so much fun running around the place for like 2 hours trying to hypothesize and work out what the hell was going on here. Some people think that it was a religious temple site, sacrificial site. Some people think that it was astrological observation place. We even had some other theories that it could have been an early university type thing, like people would come for learning, like an ancient mystery school or a TED Talk arena. We even got onto theories about it being a ancient like watering hole, almost like a spa where people could come and, you know, wash.
Stars, having built a swimming pool or overseen a swimming pool being constructed, the first thing you need to do is you need to have the solid waterproof floor, which you have here. Right. You need to have the things that sit within that structure that enable people to enjoy it. So you've got these lovely little pieces that you would actually sit in with your feet in the water. This is not the landscape that this would have been. This would have potentially been a place that could have been rainforest. So you could have been sitting here looking out to this beautiful environment. You've actually got all these connections into these other sections. So whether they are from different times, there's the possibility of water passing through. How do you get water here? Well, maybe there's a water source. So I think, you know, structurally and functionally, it looks like a swimming pool, and it actually looks like the way in which a swimming pool structure is. Just because there are animals drawn there doesn't mean that they could be decorative, because that's what you do when you actually create sort of an environment where people spend time together and enjoy themselves. We don't know what the climate was here at the point in time at which it was built, but maybe it was actually conducive to some sort of a water-based kind of recreation.
They say Karahan Tepe, the same thing. They think that it was a heated water. I saw one theory anyway about it being a heated water. They could literally channel the water underneath. There would have been a roof, and if they filled it with water, it would have been like a heated water pool. And I was like,
a cistern or whatever would have been at the top of this hill, right? And it would have been a gathering place for any elemental water or any.
I mean, we think
it's a resort.
We've cracked it, guys. We've got it.
it's
it's a resort. Now, there's one theory that I had heard that I really enjoyed from Dr. Martin Sweatman, professor at Edinburgh University. He was at Cosmic Summit last year, and I think he's going to be there next year. Very exciting. He has written some papers looking into the idea that there is a timestamp of the Younger Dryas, and that the iconography of the animals and the sculptures at Gobekli Tepe, it's telling the story of the Younger Dryas comet impact, and a literal timestamp of when it happened, particularly at Pillar 43. Now, I was really surprised about where Pillar 43 was. I'd seen photos of it, and I felt like I thought it would be like bang in the middle. It's actually way over in the corner. Wow, it's tucked all the way over in the side. Okay, that's really interesting to know. So it's all the way down there. And when Dr. Sweatman analysed the animals' shapes that are on the back of the pillar and ran these images through astronomical software, found that the animals actually aligned with the constellation shapes way back in the year 10,950 BC, give or take 100 years, which actually lines up really well with the Younger Dryas comet impact. I think the initial one. There was a few. And not just Pillar 43, at Pillar 18, he also interpreted that some of the symbols on there could be comet related, using the sun and the moon and a sort of foxtail being an artistic representation of a comet tail. Pillar 2 represents the radiant path of the Taurid meteor stream. The Taurid meteor stream is a stream of asteroids, meteoroids, shrapnel that we fly through as a planet twice a year, every June and October, I believe. The Earth flies through it, and we're dodging space stuff when we do, apart from 12,000 years ago when we got hit by a bit of space shrapnel, which was the Younger Dryas comet impact. Another really cool thing about Gobekli Tepe is that no one is entirely sure about when it started. The Phase 1 date is unknown. At the moment, we can only date the site from the organic bits and bobs that were in the soil that filled in the enclosure. Samples were taken from the very bottom of enclosure D, and both agree to 9,530 BC, give or take about 200 years. It's also theorised that the walls were added later than the original enclosure, as some T-pillars, which are supported in the walls, have been entirely decorated, and now parts of the intended artwork are stuck in the wall. So why would you take the time and effort, decorate an entire T-pillar, if you were only going to put it in the wall? So it looks like the wall was built at a later date. Also, you can see where T-pillars have been recycled and used to build the wall. We called this little thing here the doghouse, because it looked like a cute little doghouse, the little like a little dog shed, and that is where they have used a bit of broken T-pillar from one of the arenas, I'm going to call them. Now, Martin Sweatman has been developing a new theory for the Pillar 43, and this includes the V-shaped lines that have been inscribed at the top of the pillar. In a nutshell, the theory is that each V-shape represents one day, and you've got 15 V-shapes. The top band of V-shapes would be one lunar month, equaling 29 or 30 days. Then we have 11 boxes underneath these V-shapes, which are 11 lunar months. This brings our total to 354 days. Then we have a further 10 days of V-shapes underneath that. That brings us to 364 days. We are missing a day, but if we count the summer solstice, there is a small V which is on the neck of the vulture. That brings the total to 365 days. Now, this would be in keeping with the recently discovered Paleolithic flute or bit of wood. They were marking lunar cycles, with 15 marks going one way and 14 marks going the other. So there are similarities. Was this another way to record time and months and calendars? And is this another tick box in the idea that Pillar 43 is somewhat celestial? I think that originally the site could have been very similar to a sort of Stonehenge looking site with T-pillars all standing solo, as it were. And then I imagine that after a few years or millennia, some of the T-pillars were getting unstable, and so to try and stabilize them, they were probably using bits of wood to prop them up and keep them up. And I think because some pillars have these like holes in them, which I feel would be probably where bits of wood had been propped up against them or between them to try and keep them stable. And that's why some pillars have holes in or sort of these markings and some don't. So then somebody obviously had a good rethink and were like, look, mate, the wood's not cutting it to keep the T-pillars up. We need to probably, what if we built reinforcing walls? And then there we are. Then we would have all the pillars staying up in position, and we would also create little like rooms. It would be like a little enclosed arena room, conference center. You get the vibe. The visitor center likes to show lots of images with potential roofs. They told us that the reason they think there was a roof was because on top of the T pillars you can see this sort of like markings or like kind of scoops, and they think that would be they said it was the pressure of the roof would have like indented the T pillars. And some of us weren't entirely sure that's exactly what that was, but if you have any idea what could make these sort of scoop marks on the top of the T-pillars, let us know in the comments. Now, enclosure E is interesting. This is the first enclosure that you see when you walk into Gobekli Tepe and walk up the hill, and it's just sort of bedrock with two sockets in the ground where two T-pillars would have originally been. They don't know where the T-pillars have gone to this day. Maybe they were recycled, maybe they were stolen, who knows. Is this older? Is enclosure E the original design of what this place would have looked like? Were all the enclosures originally looking like enclosure E with T-pillars in sockets in the ground? And then at a later date, did they build the wall? Well, we know at a later date they built the walls, but I think enclosure E is a really good visual for what I think the original site would have looked like, potentially couple thousand years before it was buried. We had to crack on because on the itinerary we had a very, very special visit to the widow of Klaus Schmidt. He was the original archaeologist who led the dig when Gobekli Tepe was discovered back in the 90s, and we were going to meet his wife, who still lives in Urfa, and she showed us some amazing bits and bobs from their time together, some amazing photographs of them working, and we got to pick her brain.
One of the other things that a lot of people are interested in learning a bit more about, originally, your husband's idea or concept, it is intentionally buried.
Yeah.
And then we know now there's more recent studies by Lee Clare, who studied under him originally, where he has a difference of opinion with it not being intentionally buried. Where are you at with this now? Are we looking at the new studies, or are we back to the original idea? What is your take with respect
of
to
course, you should also look in new studies, but they had this idea immediately after Klaus was passed away, and I didn't see until now some evidences for this idea. It was only one idea, and Klaus told another opinion because he was following all the structures, all the profiles, earth profiles. This is very important for archaeological excavations. We can see the all levels, if there are levels, or is it backfilled, or is it naturally backfilled. It could be another pictures in earth profiles if it's naturally filled. And also there are some special finds near pavement. If we are reaching pavement, there are some sculpture fragments front of pillars, or some stone balls. They were giving some gifts, I think, to pillars and
like offerings?
Offerings, yeah. They cannot offer some live animals because they are all wild. But they were putting some sculptures around pillars, and we are finding this situation in situ, in original position. I mean, if there will be some earthquake or some natural things, we couldn't find such situations.
She showed us these amazing photos, which was Gobekli Tepe, the mound, before it was discovered. And here's the after. You can see with the 5% of what they have actually uncovered, you can see all the enclosures. And there's still stuff going on. And she just showed us on the map just how much more there still is to find. And they have done ground penetrating radar, sort of LiDAR scanning. So they know that there are enclosures all under there. who knows what other structures there are, what other imagery, decorations, it's all yet to be discovered, which is so exciting. And she pretty much said that the entire hill, the entire mound has structures underneath yet to be found. On top of the hill, there is this lone tree, which is called the wishing tree. And it's this beautiful ancient tree. I can't remember off the top of my head what the tree is. Someone will have to remind me. And you can see there's lots of little ribbons and garlands tied to it, because people still today come up and they come up and put a wish on the tree, and they stand, they touch the tree to make a wish, make a prayer. Now, this tradition is not new. This has been going on for a very long time. In the village, it was known that this tree had a sort of sacred spot. It was a sacred place, and people would come up to the tree, and especially if they were looking for help with fertility, and if they wanted a baby, they could come up and wish for the tree and often get granted a baby, particularly a baby boy. Now, this tradition of this sort of cultural knowledge that this hill was a sacred site was going on way before Gobekli Tepe was even rediscovered. So there were still echoes 10,000 years later that this hill was special, it was important, and it was sacred. And I found that really interesting, that knowledge could survive locally for that long, because 10,000 years is a very long time. That is like literally Atlantis timescales. Now the adventure continues, because we had special permission to go and see yet another site. This site is a recent discovery. You've probably seen it in the news. It was in a little village where a man had lived for 20 years in his house, and he went to refurbish part of his house, and he dug down into the sort of foundations, and he discovered 10,000-year-old amazing sculpture and relief work right under his house. So now his house has become a protected ancient site. And the village is under excavation, and they've excavated a lot of outside and around his house now, and they could carbon date outside to around 9,600 BC. So it is a contemporary dating to the infilling or some of the wall building around Gobekli Tepe. The style and design of the stonework is also exactly the same. So it's without a doubt in my mind, it's the same builder society, the same culture that was doing this site as Gobekli Tepe. Now, this was very weird. I was one of the first people to go into the underground part of the house to look at the new sculpture. So I was also one of the first out. And while I was having a little wander around outside, something caught my eye. I saw a stone that was being used as part of a gatepost just in someone's front yard in the village. And I saw it, and something about it made me look closer. I came out here on my own, and I saw this T-shaped pillar. I was like, that looks a bit like Gobekli Tepe. Wait, is this carvings or what? So back here, you've got the back shape of the head. This is an arm that comes down here, elbow, forearm, and there's a hand around the front.
Show us the arm.
This is the arm, elbow, wrist, doing this, exactly like Gobekli Tepe. You've got the hand on one side, and you've got the opposite hand on the other. This is potentially a rib or a decorative chest plate or something between the shoulder and the wrist. Obviously it's really old, but I found something. So I was very excited. So I told our tour guide, who he had never heard of this, and so he ran off to tell the sort of site manager and the site security that we've spotted a T-pillar that's being used outside the house. So we were all very excited. And I was over the moon to make this discovery. Later, it came to my attention that somebody else had previously spotted this T-pillar was in fact a human-shaped T-pillar. Hugh Newman on his channel Megalithomania had in fact done a video about it. I didn't know, I'd missed that video, so I wasn't aware of it. So we both independently had made this discovery, and still baffled as to why the T-pillar was just left out in the open to the elements, if it is in fact a recycled T-pillar. Imagine just using a 12,000-year-old ancient stone carved T-pillar, just using it as your gatepost to keep your chickens in. Amazing. My ancient discovery turned out had already been discovered, but the fact that I did it with my own eyes and independently, I'm still dead proud. So it was the most exciting day. That was probably the best way to finish off this insane day of visiting Gobekli Tepe. So thank you very much for watching this video. What do you think? Do you have any theories of Gobekli Tepe that I have not touched on here? Let me know your thoughts. I will see you guys in the next video. Happy hunting.